What's up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. If some of you have been following my channel, you've seen a couple different videos where I've documented my experiences with renting on Turo. I've made a video where I rented my BMW i3 in San Francisco and made about $4,000, and another video where I rented my brand new Tesla Model 3 in Los Angeles to make enough money to hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Well, in today's video, another YouTuber that I watched, Shelby, rented her Tesla on Turo, and it doesn't look like it went well, at least by the thumbnail. So in today's video, I'm going to be watching and reacting to her video called I Rented My Tesla to a Stranger on Turo, Here's What Happened. So let's get into the video and see what, well, actually happened. Thanks for watching another video, guys. If you're new here, my name is Dennis, and I typically make a lot of videos about Tesla content and a little bit of personal finance content. So if you're interested in any of that, please hit that subscribe. Shelby has actually made a couple different videos about when she got her Tesla and her experiences, so definitely check out some of her videos if you haven't seen them already. So of course, the first thing we gotta do is hit that like button.
Today I rented my car out to a stranger. Allow me to explain.
Before I bought a Tesla, I rented one on Turo to see if I really liked it, and I noticed that Teslas in general could charge a much higher price than cars of a similar class.
Yeah, actually, when I had my Tesla Model 3 on Turo, I actually took it down pretty recently because of everything that's going on right now, and I didn't want to interact with too many people. But I was renting mine for about $139 a day, which would net me about 75% of that, which I think was about $89 at the time. You could elect for a higher percentage, which you would get about 80% of that, but you would have less coverages just in case there were any accidents.
If you've never heard of Turo, it's basically Airbnb for cars, so you can rent other people's cars or rent out your own to a stranger like I'm doing today.
So the coolest car I've ever rented probably so far from Turo was probably like a Porsche 911. Me and my friend did that in San Francisco, but I think we got it for about $200 a day. But if you go on the platform, there's a ton of different cars in the Los Angeles area, like Porsche GT3s, Lamborghini Hurricanes, and a lot of different cars. But you just have to be careful with those cars depending on the fine print.
I rented one on Turo for myself because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to get the car, and I felt like 20 minutes of a test drive just wasn't enough for me to decide on it. So I rented one on Turo, and the guy I rented it from told me he made quite a bit just renting his car on Turo. And I think he even said he bought another. So he had one that he was just renting out to make money. This was like a year ago, so I don't totally remember, but it would make sense. He could fully pay that car off and more by just renting it out.
Depending on which car you have, it can be very tough to actually make money, but there are a lot of people that actually make a good amount of money on Turo just by renting fleets. But you just have to be careful because you can't necessarily care about the car too much because the car is going to get 100% get damaged, and you have to kind of keep track on what's damaged on what car so you can file for claims or work with the renters to get your money back.
I started by kind of throwing a listing together with just some photos that were screenshots from videos I already had. I set my listing price to $109, which was similar to the other Model 3s on Turo. A few days later, no one had rented my car yet. I realized I actually did need to take some better photos, not just some screenshots from a video, and I needed to lower my price because I didn't have any reviews. I was getting buried in the Turo algorithm.
So $90 or even $109 is actually pretty high in my opinion, because I believe her Tesla is either a short range or a long range version. I rented my Tesla for $139, and I think mine was a little bit too high also. Of course, mine was a Tesla Model 3 Performance, which is the highest version for a Tesla Model 3, but there are definitely other Tesla Model 3 Performances in the low $100 range as well. I think there's one in downtown that's also $109 a day with free supercharging and the tolls paid.
So first things first, my car is a little dirty, a little dusty. Yeah, you can see the dust on that. If someone rented that, they would be like, okay, ew. I like to think I'm pretty good at Photoshop, but there's just no photoshopping out that dust. It's gotta actually be cleaned.
So I went to a car wash to get it ready for both its first booking and for some listing photos.
So that's part of the reason why I actually stopped doing Turo as well. I got tired of trying to wash my car all the time and making sure that the insides and the outsides was clean enough. Because I have two corgis and we started to do more road trips, it was too much of a pain to get all the hair out of the car before the next renter would actually rent the car. Another thing with renting your personal car on Turo is you have to take everything out because typically with a rental car you get it pretty empty, so you don't want to leave anything in the car that can get in the renter's way. Another thing with everything that's going in the world right now, Turo put stricter guidelines for cleanliness, and I just didn't want to deal with any of that.
Now it was time to take some photos and revamp my listing.
Okay, so the Turo app wants you to take photos of the front, back, side, and inside of the car. I want these photos to look amazing, really sell the the car, so I'm just gonna rearrange it so it's diagonal.
So I took photos from every angle of the car. I used a DSLR because I have one, but I think you could totally get away with just using an iPhone. Just anything with a really wide lens is gonna look good, and this really only took me about 10 minutes to do.
Yeah, so just like thumbnails on YouTube or any listings page, you want to make sure your pictures are as optimized as possible. That's really going to get the clicks for potential renters to look at your car. There's a ton of other cars also on Turo, so having bad pictures on the Turo website doesn't do you any good.
So I gave the listing a makeover with the new photos I took.
See, I think that's a much better photo. It'll actually be really clear and in focus.
Yeah, so having pictures is also very important because you kind of want to give the renter an idea of what they're renting at. So a couple pictures of the outside is good, but also in the interior too, like the driver's seat or even the back seat or even the trunk to show them how much space or what it would be like driving your car.
So actually the day after I uploaded new photos and lowered my price a bit, I got my first booking.
Oh my god, okay, so I got a booking for tomorrow. It's a Friday to Monday, just a long weekend. So this guy doesn't have any reviews, so that's a little concerning.
That's definitely very concerning. I typically never accept any renter that has 0 reviews, and there's even more fishier ones that just create an account like that same day, which you definitely want to stay away from. Even renters that have a couple different reviews, you also want to look at who's reviewing them. There's potentially the case where some people may create accounts and just review each other just to get a couple reviews under their belt.
But Turo is pretty new. It's not like Airbnb quite yet. You know, I think most people watching this probably don't have any reviews on Turo. He said him and his girlfriend are taking a trip and he's always wanted to experience a Tesla for his birthday. I love that. I'm gonna accept it. Get my car fully ready.
So you can see in that screenshot that even though the person didn't have reviews, they've had their account since 2017. So it's probably not as fishy as someone who just created their account October of 2020 and rented it right away.
Okay, so it's the day of the Turo rental. I'm a little nervous just because I don't want anything to happen to my car.
So you can see there, you want to empty your trunk, empty everything out, any personal stuff out of the car, because you don't want it to go missing, or you also kind of want to give them as much space as possible.
The car inside is still very clean, but I'm gonna do some additional disinfecting. I also need to clean out the trunk and vacuum it. It's kind of nice because the guy is just gonna come meet me at my house, so I don't actually have to drive anywhere. So this should be pretty easy.
So that's a cool thing with Turo rentals. Most of the people will always meet you at your house. There are times where you can elect to have the airport pickup fee, but if you don't want to have that at all, you can just have them come meet you at wherever you are, and it's pretty seamless after that.
And I also just did some more disinfecting from the Turo guidelines for the illness. I had to take this course thing. It took 15 minutes, and so I just followed their guidelines to make sure everything was super clean for them. So the full amount of time for me to prep the car, including going to a car wash and then doing a little bit myself, was probably a little over an hour.
So yeah, cleaning the car can take a good amount of time if you don't have some sort of process. You can see there, those are the new guidelines that Turo put in for the illness.
Turo has you take a bunch of photos of the car to kind of show what it was like before the rental, so I just did that.
I wish you went in a little bit further on that picture part, because that is actually a very crucial step that you must do or have your renter do, because that's really the only way you can document or your renter can document how the condition of your car is before the renter takes it. You can see in that screenshot, she took a bunch of different photos. I think Turo only recommends like 6, but the more you take, the more better you are and more equipped you are, just in case something were to happen to your car. The worst thing that actually has ever happened to me really hasn't been any body damage, knock on wood. My BMW i3 in San Francisco really suffered no damage whatsoever at all, but my Tesla Model 3 in Los Angeles has had 3 curved rims from renters, and so you can watch my video to see actually what happened and what we went through that process.
And now we're fully ready for the handoff. I gave them a quick tutorial on the car because it does drive different than other cars, and then it was just all theirs for the weekend.
Yeah, so most people do appreciate some sort of handoff, especially the newer cars that are a little bit weird, but I don't know how that can kind of work in this day and age. You don't necessarily want to spend too much time with them on the car.
All right, I just did the handoff. I gotta say, it's so weird to have someone driving my car. I'm just like, please take care of it. If I wasn't a YouTuber and didn't make videos, I definitely would not do this because it's just the peace of mind. Unless I had 2 Teslas, then I guess I would. But I do feel good knowing there's insurance and I met the people. I kind of like showed them how to use it. It should be fine. I think everything will be fine. And they were super nice. I think they'll enjoy it. It should be a fun time for them.
So I do think there is something about when renters come to see your car and they meet you as a person, they do try and take care of it a little bit better because they know it's someone's car, as opposed to like renting a car from like Hertz or any of these other organizations that it's just a business. In the past, when I rented my BMW i3 over 40 times in San Francisco, I think people took care of it pretty well because they realized it was my car. And most of the time, these people are tourists, which could be a good thing or a bad thing because they might not understand the area or the traffic patterns and might damage your car.
First day of the rental, I really was like, oh my god, what did I just do? I hope nothing happens. So I've really never used this until now, but you can see on the Tesla app where your car is and how fast it's going. I didn't know you could see how fast it's going. So they've definitely adjusted to the LA lifestyle, you know, going like 80 on it. I mean, I'm not worried. I don't think I'm really going to be checking where they're at, but I might check it once a day to make sure they didn't drive it to like another state, but I'm sure.
But she's exactly right. It is kind of a weird thing to have your car out there being driven by someone else. A good feature with Tesla is you can actually track your car wherever it's going via the app. You can actually see it where it is, if it's driving or not, if it's on, if the windows are open, if the doors are open. You can see the exact GPS location and speed they're going as well. You could also limit the speed as well, but most people might not like that, especially if they're driving a performance model.
It's fine. So I know this is a little weird that you can track where your renters are. In the Turo guidelines, you are allowed to do this, and with a Tesla, it just does it anyway. And I will say it gave me peace of mind that I could check and make sure, you know, they hadn't started driving it across the country or it wasn't at an auto body shop or something like that. Just know if you rent a Tesla on Turo, the owner can see where you go.
So there's definitely been some horror stories on the forums and for other people that rent Teslas. Because it's an electric car and people that are used to gas cars don't really know or gauge how much battery is left, there has been cars that I've seen that have just completely ran out of battery by renters. If you have a Tesla, you definitely want to keep track of where they're going. Kind of check in periodically using the app, which is really nice to make sure they're not depleting the battery or going too far away. There's a lot of different other Turo renters that use other forms of GPS tracking as well. And there's also other renters that don't even meet with you at all and just remote unlock the car for you. So there's definitely ways to keep track of your car or your fleet on Turo without it going missing.
All right, so I just got the car back and let's take a look at the condition that it's in. As you can see, it's in great condition. I looked pretty thoroughly. I'm not sure if this little scratch thing was here before or what that is even. I don't know. I mean, I could have done that. I'm not really sure.
So that's exactly why you should take a bunch of pictures before and after the trip, because damages like this can just pop up out of nowhere and it's kind of a he said, she said type of ordeal at the end.
But yeah, I mean, it looks perfectly fine. Nothing wrong. Even the inside here, really clean. They didn't even leave any garbage or anything like that, which technically they could have. I was gonna clean it anyway. I mean, you never know what condition you're gonna get it back in. I was so relieved to get my car back in good condition because you hear those horror stories and you never know. But in my case, this first time renting it, everything's fine. Like it actually, I'm surprised. I thought they would maybe leave a little garbage behind or something, but no. It looks like when I gave it to them pretty much.
So most people actually treat your car pretty well. They don't leave too much garbage in at all, but there's definitely been cases that I've seen on the Turo forums in which people just leave cars trashed with like cigarettes and kind of other contraband in the car as well. And they definitely don't treat it as nicely as this renter did.
As far as the checkout process, they just drove the car back to my house. We both took photos to document if there was any damage, which there wasn't.
So this just took about 10 minutes, then they were on their way. Now what you're really wondering, how much I made.
All right, let's talk money. My car ended up renting at $90 per day for 3 days, so the trip price was $270.
So in this screenshot here, you can actually see that she set her terms to 200 miles a day for Turo. You typically don't want to give the renter that many miles because when you get down to your cost, you want to try and minimize as many miles as possible that they can drive, because each mile they drive is more cost on you as an owner. So typically I have my miles set at 100 miles a day and I set mileage overages as well. It's actually pretty nice that someone rented it for 3 days total. Typically in the Los Angeles area, I would only get trips for 1 day or even 2 days max. But 3 days is actually a pretty nice rental because you only meet with one person and you get 3 days of revenue for the one rental, which is really nice.
Because Turo provides insurance, they take 30%, so I was left with $189. So really per day, I only made $63 renting out my Tesla, which honestly, I don't think is too bad.
You could also factor in the cost of the car wash and you'd get to $161, but I would have gone to get my car washed anyway, so I don't know if I'd count this.
So she does have a point there because most owners would wash their cars anyways. But with Turo, you actually have to make sure the car is a little bit cleaner than normal just so you don't get a bad review when handling handing off your car. I've definitely gotten some bad reviews or 4-star reviews because the car wasn't as clean as it should be when I gave them a car. It was probably like a week after I got it washed and vacuumed.
So $189, renting it out $90 per day, that's pretty good, but it's actually kind of on the low end for what you can rent a Tesla out as. Keep in mind, this was my first time renting ever. I had no reviews. You really had to search to find my listing. So I lowered my price a bit so I actually got a renter. All the other Model 3s on Turo were at least $100, like $110. So I upped mine to $110 and just to see if like anyone would actually book it.
So you can see from that screenshot, most of the other Teslas that were rented at a higher price had performance wheels, which means that they were Model 3 performances, which is a higher value in a sense than her vehicle. So that's why they're rented at a higher rate.
So would I recommend renting on Turo, and would I do this again? It's a little more complicated.
So overall, my experience renting out my Tesla on Turo was really great. The renters were super nice. It was actually kind of fun showing them the car because they were excited to be driving a Tesla. I made a bit of money and nothing bad happened to my car.
The one thing she didn't go into, which I just noticed, is she took a bunch of pictures of the car before the trip, but when you actually meet up with the person, you should also take a picture and double check their driver's license, because there has been fraud of people kind of using identities just to rent a car and just kind of wreak havoc with someone else's car.
Would I do this again? No. I don't think I would. Firstly, this is my only car, so renting it out just would not make any sense unless I was on a trip or something like that. In the case of going on a trip though, I just don't want that added stress of worrying about my car. You know, what if something happens to it?
So the good thing with Turo is you can actually set your calendar by hour of when you can have trips to come in for approval. So you can kind of optimize it how you want depending on when you need your car and when you don't. Sometimes if I knew I was going to be home all day and I didn't need to go anywhere, I would actually leave it open so that renter requests can come in, and would block it for 3 days if I knew I needed to use my car anyways.
I mean, really, the whole time my car was rented out, the first day especially, I was nervous something was going to happen. It just is on your mind. You don't have that peace of mind. So that's kind of the price you pay.
There definitely is a worry when you rent your car out like this, but as you start to rent your car more and more, you either start to care about it less, or you actually just get more comfortable or kind of learn what you need to look for when you approve someone.
Really, the only scenario that I think it makes sense to do this is if you have 2 cars. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you have a brand new car and if something happened to it, you would be really devastated. I waited a year to make this video for a reason. I've had the idea for a long time, but I knew within the first year if something happened to my car, I would be super sad.
If you are down to take this risk though, you can make a decent amount of money for not that much work.
If I rented out this car 20 days of the month, at that $63 rate that I rented it, you'd make about $1,200. That's more than double the payment that you would make if you financed a Tesla. It would really only take renting it about a week, a month for it to fully pay for itself.
So it sounds like renting it a week or even 7 days is pretty easy, but in actuality, 7 days is actually a lot of time to actually rent out your car to pay off your payment. Because if you think about it, if you're using it sometime during the week and only trying to rent it out on weekends, you would have to rent it out every single weekend just to make, in her example, $450. I think the most I've ever rented my car in one calendar month was 16 to 18 days in that whole month while using the car on my own.
So I only kept 70% because I did their insurance plan. You can keep as little as 60 and have everything extremely insured, or you can keep as much as 85%, but you're gonna have a really high deductible. So if something does happen, you're gonna have to pay $2,500.
So definitely insurance plays a big part on how much profit you're actually gonna make. If it's a brand new car, I would definitely recommend the 60% plan, because you definitely want your car to be covered as much as possible. A lot of people that do this full time or make a lot of money on it actually have the high deductible, but they also have way older cars that have depreciated a lot in like the $15,000 to $20,000 range, but still get pretty good rental days, like $50 to $100 a day.
What do you guys think? Would you rent your car on Turo? It's obviously not exclusive to Teslas or anything. Anyone can rent their car out on Turo. I just noticed that Teslas go for way more than like maybe they should compared to other cars in that price range. In a lot of ways, it does seem worth it because you can make a good amount, but you do have that risk there. Like, you don't know what could happen. Since it's my primary car, I won't be renting mine out anymore.
I personally stopped renting my car on Turo because of the illness, and also because I actually financed the car instead of leasing the car like I've done with my other cars. If I was leasing the Tesla, then I would definitely rent this car because it's not necessarily my car in the end, but because I financed the Tesla, it's actually mine in the end, so any damages can really affect the value of the vehicle. The one really good thing with renting your Tesla on Turo or any of the other sites, because it is such a low maintenance car, you don't really have to worry about the maintenance costs as you would with other gas cars, or also older cars that could have high maintenance costs as well, or it could just break down on you completely. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Shelby Church's video. I rented my Tesla to a stranger on Turo, and here's what happened. Let me know your guys' thoughts on whether you rent on Turo as well, and if you think my feedback is pretty much on spot with renting on Turo. Alright guys, hit that like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!